Let me ask you something nobody ever asks. When you imagine being rich, what do you actually see? Not the money itself, not the number in your bank account, but what comes after the money. Close your eyes for a second and picture it. Maybe it's a house. A specific house with a kitchen that gets morning light, and a backyard where things are quiet, and a front door you walk through knowing nothing bad is waiting on the other side. Maybe it's freedom, the ability to say no, to not check your account before you buy something, to not feel that low-grade, constant hum of what if something goes wrong and I can't handle it. Maybe it's respect, people taking you seriously, not having to prove yourself anymore. Here's what I notice about everything you just pictured. None of it is actually about money. It's about safety. The house is safety. The freedom is safety. The respect is safety. The ability to say no, safety. The end of that hum, safety. And here's why this matters more than anything else I could tell you today. If what you're really chasing is safety, and you spend your entire life chasing money instead, you will spend your entire life running toward something that cannot give you what you actually need. And you'll never understand why you feel empty when you finally get there. Part 1. The Man Who Had Everything. In 2009, a man named Andrew made his first $1 million. He was 34. He had spent his entire 20s grinding, 80-hour weeks, missed birthdays, relationships that quietly fell apart because he was never really present in them. He had told himself, over and over, that it would be worth it, that once he got there, everything would settle. Everything would feel different. The day he saw the number in his account, he sat at his desk for a long time. Then he called his mother. "Mom," he said, "I did it." And she said, "Are you happy?" He didn't answer right away. And in that pause, in that silence where happiness should have been, Andrew felt something he hadn't expected. Not joy, not relief. More fear, because now he had something to lose. The money he had spent a decade chasing had not made him feel safe. It had raised the stakes. Now he had a lifestyle to protect, a status to maintain, an identity built around success that could collapse if anything went wrong. He had more, and felt less secure than ever. This is not an unusual story. The research backs it up in ways that should stop us all cold. A landmark study out of Princeton, led by psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who later won the Nobel Prize, found that beyond a certain income threshold, more money has almost no impact on day-to-day emotional well-being. You feel the difference between broke and stable, deeply, profoundly. But between comfortable and wealthy? Between wealthy and extremely wealthy? Almost nothing. Because the thing money can actually buy, security from external threats, has a ceiling. Once your basic needs are met, once you're not lying awake worrying about rent, money stops solving the problem. Because the problem was never external. The problem lives inside the nervous system. Part 2. What your nervous system actually wants. Here's something most financial advice completely ignores. Your relationship with money was formed before you were old enough to have any. By the time you were 7 years old, you had already absorbed from your parents, from your environment, from the emotional texture of your household, a set of beliefs about what money means, what it feels like to have it, what it feels like to lose it, whether the world is a place of abundance or scarcity, whether you are the kind of person who gets to be financially safe or the kind who always has to fight for it. These beliefs didn't go into your thinking mind. They went into your body, into your nervous system, into the part of your brain, the amygdala, the threat detection center, that decides in a fraction of a second whether you are safe or in danger. And the cruel irony is this: if you grew up in an environment where money was scarce, where financial stress was constant, where safety felt conditional, your nervous system learned that scarcity is the default state. Not as a thought, as a feeling so deeply embedded that no amount of money in your bank account can fully override it, because it's not responding to your bank balance. It's responding to an old story, a story written when you were a child, in a world that no longer exists, but that your body still believes is happening right now. This is why people who grow up poor often stay poor even when their circumstances change. Not because they lack intelligence or ambition, but because their nervous system keeps pulling them back toward what feels familiar, even when familiar means struggle. And it's why people who grow up wealthy and lose everything and rebuild, not because they're smarter, but because their nervous system knows, at a cellular level, that safety is possible, that it's been true before, that it can be true again. The playing field was never level. But understanding this, really understanding it, is the beginning of leveling it yourself. Part 3. The real reason you make bad financial decisions. Let me tell you what actually happens when you make a financial decision from fear. You see a business opportunity, and instead of evaluating it clearly, your nervous system floods your body with threat signals. Your thinking narrows. You either freeze and miss the opportunity, or you panic grab and make a decision without thinking it through. You get a raise, and instead of feeling secure, you immediately start calculating all the new ways things could go wrong. So you spend it before you save it, because spending feels like control, and control feels like safety. You stay in a job you hate for years past the point it made sense, because leaving feels like falling, and falling feels like the thing your 7-year-old self was most afraid of. None of these are money problems. They are nervous system problems wearing a money costume. The behavioral economist Dan Ariely spent decades studying why intelligent, educated people make irrational financial decisions. His conclusion was simple and devastating. We don't make decisions with our logic. We make decisions with our emotions and then use our logic to explain them afterward. Which means that giving someone better financial information, better budgeting strategies, better investment knowledge, without addressing the emotional system driving their behavior, is like handing a map to someone whose compass is broken. The map is not the problem. Part 4. So what do you actually do? Here is where most videos like this disappoint you. They tell you to meditate, to journal, to practice gratitude, to rewire your mindset, as if a mindset is something you can rewire in a weekend. I'm not going to do that, because what I'm describing is real. It's neurological. It takes time, and it takes honesty, and there's no shortcut that fits in a 3-step listicle. But there is a starting point. And the starting point is this: stop solving the wrong problem. If what you really want is safety, name that. Get specific about it. What does safety actually look like for you in concrete terms? Not, I want to be rich. That's not specific enough to build toward. But, I want 6 months of expenses and savings so that if I lose my job, I have time to think clearly. Or, I want to own my home so that no landlord can remove me from my life. Or, I want enough passive income that I can say no to work that makes me feel small. These are safety goals, and they are achievable, often far sooner than the abstract goal of being rich, because they have edges. You know when you've arrived. The second thing is harder. Start noticing when your financial decisions are coming from fear versus clarity. Fear decisions feel urgent. They feel like if I don't act right now, something bad will happen. They narrow your vision. They cut off options. Clarity decisions feel different. They feel like you have space to think, like you're choosing rather than reacting. The goal is not to eliminate fear. Fear is information. Sometimes it's right. The goal is to slow down enough to tell the difference between the fear that is responding to something real and the fear that is responding to an old story that stopped being true a long time ago. Andrew, the man from the beginning of this story, eventually figured this out, not through making more money, but through understanding what he was actually afraid of. He grew up with a father who lost his business when Andrew was 9. He watched his family go from comfortable to scrambling in the space of a single year. And at 9 years old, without the words to understand it, he made a decision. That will never happen to me. And he spent 25 years running from a 9-year-old's fear. When he finally saw that, really saw it, something shifted. Not his bank account, his relationship to it. He stopped making decisions from that 9-year-old place. He started making them from the person he had actually become. The money didn't change. The fear did. And that, more than any raise, any investment, any financial strategy you will ever read about, is where real security begins. Not in your account. In you. If this hits something real, share it with someone who's been chasing a number without knowing what they're actually looking for. They might need to hear this more than they know. Next time, we're going deeper into why your brain is literally wired to keep you exactly where you are, and what it actually takes to change that. Until then, figure out what you're really chasing. That's where everything starts.